Texas punches their ticket to Arlington with a big 57-7 victory over Texas Tech in their final Big 12 regular season game. Hello and welcome to the Horns 24/7 post-game reaction. Tommy Yarrish alongside the flyest man in Austin, Texas, Eric Henry, and the mayor of Austin, Chip Brown, to his right. Fellas, thanks for being here with me. Let's go ahead and start off with the Texas defense in this ball game. One of arguably maybe their best game so far this year, one of the best units in the country doing it once again. Texas Tech scores 7 in the first quarter. They're held scoreless through the final 3 frames. Longhorns secondary forces 3 interceptions, including a pick 6 for Jet Bush on senior day. And fellas, the rare occasion where Texas gave up more on the ground than they did through the air. Guys, what'd you make of Pete Kwiatkowski's crew on this Friday night?
Well, the fact that they held Texas Tech to under 200 total yards and held Taj Brooks, the nation's number 3 rusher, under 100 yards rushing, 3 of 13 on third down, 0 of 1 on fourth down, intercepted Baron Morton 3 times, including a "are you kidding me" pick 6 from the one and only Jet Bush, who gathers a ball out of the air that had caromed off the foot of Tech running back Taj Brooks, and he returns it for a touchdown. He also had a sack earlier in the game. I mean, you couldn't draw this up any better, Eric, for this defense. Their energy was off the charts in this game. They were all over Texas Tech. The only sequence that got them was a nice kick return, followed by a 25-yard run by Taj Brooks, breaking tackles. He leads the nation in forced missed tackles, and a pass interference penalty on Keaton Crawford that set Tech up at, first and goal from the 2. Baron Morton ran it in. Other than that, it was a whole lot of just, frustration for Texas Tech and domination for the Texas defense.
Chip, you talked about the point that I was going to kind of segue into there, and that if you look at Texas Tech's score, it really was just kind of you don't call it fluky because the drive was legit, but it wasn't indicative of the way Texas defense played throughout the night. Really stifled the Red Raiders. I asked Steve Sarkisian this post game. He really challenged his defense. Following the TCU game, he said, and that, of course, was a game that saw, the defense allow another second half comeback in terms of passing yards. He said he challenges defense to maintain the level of intensity and aggression for 4 quarters, the way that they're playing in the first and second quarter, not kind of take their foot off the pedal, Chip. You and I on the flagship podcast, we kind of speculated. Is it a matter of, kind of playing zone defense, or is it a matter of, looking up at the clock and thinking, all right, we just we'll give up everything underneath and not worry too much about anything behind us. And those little chunks here and there underneath ended up manifesting themselves into second half comebacks, TCU, Houston, and Kansas State. Well, so I asked Steve Sarkisian about that, and he said he challenged the defense, right? He felt that they responded to the challenge. And Steve Sarkisian has said to us many times, if you can pack 2 things, it'd be a run game and a defense. We're going to get to the run game in a second, but this defense really answered the bell. We spoke with Jalen Ford post-game, and he said, me being one of the leaders, I took it upon myself to say, hey, if we want to be the team that we believe we can be and the team that we think we've shown that we can be in even earlier parts of this year, we have to finish out ball games, Chip. So I think you pretty much covered the wide scope of things as far as how the game played out, but just in terms of maintaining that intensity, got to be really impressed with this performance. You could tell. Chip, it reminded me, going back to earlier in the year when they played Wyoming and games like that. You want to maintain the shutout, right? You want to, keep them from getting back on hitting the scoreboard again, right? Obviously, it wasn't a shutout tonight, but you could tell outside of that 1 touchdown drive, this Texas defense from Jalen Ford all the way down to Jamon Tapp, the guys getting the third stringers, really wanted to make an effort to hold that team to only 7 points and maintain the intensity that Steve Sarkisian talked about.
Yeah, and they did it without Ryan Watts, who was injured on the opening kickoff and did not return to this game. Their senior 6'3" boundary corner. And the coaches helped the defense tonight. They stayed aggressive. They were bringing pressure. They were going to make sure that the Texas defense stayed after Texas Tech. And that's exactly what happened. Anthony Hill was kind of the first player to lose his mind in this game. He stood over Taj Brooks, got a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, but then made up for it with a beautiful third down sack. Jet Bush with a third down sack. I mean, this defense was dominant.
Fellas, let's move to the run game here quickly. Eric kind of touched on it a little bit. Overall, just a phenomenal night from the entire running back room. Tashard Choice kind of flexing his muscles a little bit, the Texas running backs coach. As a unit, they go for 302 yards on 43 carries. That's 7 yards per carry on the money and 3 touchdowns. Jaden Blue leads the charge with 121 yards on 10 carries and a touchdown. How good does that feel for Texas when CJ Baxter, who is the starting running back and was a little bit banged up, is their 4th or 5th leading rusher in a game that they win by 50 heading into the tail end of this season?
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Chip, for letting me lead off here. No, in terms of the run game, Tommy, you talked about it, right? This is better than any of us really could have expected, losing one of the nation's top rushers in Jonathan Brooks. And it really felt, I think one of the things that made Jonathan Brooks' injury so disappointing is it really felt like we were getting his best football. His best football was ahead of him, a guy who, has always grown stronger into the second half of ball games. So when you lose a guy like him, we've talked about ad nauseum on these post-game reactions, Tommy, Jonathan Brooks' ability to force missed tackles and do all the things he can, hands out of the backfield, really be that steadying force, right? That when Texas' offense might be behind the chains a little bit or trying to stay on schedule, like I was going to pick up 5 yards and put them in second and manageable and third and manageable. Now, to get this type of performance, now, last week you get CJ Baxter, right? He's the bell cow, 20 carries, gets his first 100-yard game. To get kind of this group of backs, whether it's Jaden Blue showing the explosion that we've seen before at times, CJ Baxter, we got injury update on him, was a hip pointer. Steve Sarkisian said it was a coach's decision, so he should be good to go in a week. But Savion Red, all the guys who contributed in the run game, TJ as well. It's just a really encouraging sign overall, Tommy, because I think that was the thing that had, Longhorns fans' hearts in their stomachs, or hearts and throats, just kind of worrying, where's this run game going to be, right? Like, what we saw from CJ Baxter in the early part of the year didn't leave a lot of room for optimism in terms of, with Jonathan Brooks not being available. But to put up this type of rushing performance, and again, it wasn't like, well, granted, Texas Tech's run defense, it's been middle of the pack in the Big 12. It wasn't like they weren't trying out here. They were fired up by Brett Yormark's comments. They wanted to come out here and try to, take it to him in Austin, right? So to get this kind of performance, and you got to give credit to the offensive line as well, I think that's a really encouraging sign that, hey, they're going to be able to find rushing yards, whether it's a running back by committee or just one back. The group is still talented enough to get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, CJ Baxter ends up with, a handful of carries in this game. It really was a Jaden Blue game. And he finishes with 10 carries for 121 yards. Of course, he had the 69-yard touchdown run. And I think Jaden Blue proved to the coaches tonight that he's capable, that he's ready to be a strong number 2, kind of the way CJ Baxter was to Jonathan Brooks through the first, 8-9 games of the season. Jaden Blue, there were some concerns about his ability to pick up the blitz, protect. Last week, CJ Baxter had an issue, picking up a free rusher who Jatavian Sanders also missed, and Quinn Ewers got sacked. Jaden Blue, I think, showed tonight that he's a guy you can give 10 carries to next week in the Big 12 championship game, and it'll pay off because he's an explosive runner. I mean, he gets going, and he blasted through that hole on that 69-yard run untouched. Beautiful job by the offensive line. But that to me was the biggest takeaway from the running game tonight, because we know that Steve Sarkisian has been he doesn't rotate very much amongst his starters on offense. And I think Jaden Blue showed tonight that, hey, I'm up for this. Put me in, coach. I can handle it.
Chip, I just want to add one point. I really think you kind of made it there. Jaden Blue's explosiveness. That's the thing, right? That while we've heard about C.J. Baxter running hard, right, and those things matter as he's a young running back finding his footing in the collegiate game, for the here and now, right? C.J. Baxter, I'm sure this time next year will be an explosive running back and he'll be ripping off 20, 30-yard gains, provided Jonathan Brooks is back. Of course, that's left to be decided, right? But for the here and now, we need, if you're a Longhorn fan, if you're Steve Sarkisian in this offense, you need someone to pick up where Jonathan Brooks left off in terms of those explosive plays. And Jaden Blue showing that ability tonight, that, like you said, this goes to say, hey, maybe we give this guy 8 to 10 carries, he's going to get 1 or 2 of those explosive plays, and it gives you that factor back into the run game in the offense.
And fellas, as we kind of finish off this conversation, remember, at one point in time, Jaden Blue was 24/7's #1 running back in his high school class. He sat out his senior season of high school, and so that kind of bumped him down. But he's a guy who's waited his turn and now seemingly has stepped into the limelight at Texas, his first 100-yard carry game of, I believe, of his career, right? We'll double check on that. Don't quote me. We'll say yes. Moving on forward now, Texas wins this one. Like we mentioned earlier, they clinch a spot in the Big 12 title game. They'll find out their opponent later. We're filming this video on Saturday, so today we'll find out Texas's opponent. The good news for the Longhorns, they get a lot of rest before they head to Arlington next Saturday for an 11 a.m. kickoff, and that's good news for a Texas team that was banged up tonight. Chip, you mentioned Ryan Watts going down on the opening kickoff. Xavier Worthy and C.J. Baxter kind of slow to get up at some point. C.J. Baxter sat out for part of the game. Xavier Worthy was going to the locker room early, had to be helped off the field. He came back in the second half, although he didn't have to play much. Nonetheless, though, Texas goes to the Big 12 championship, their final year in the conference. They have a chance here, guys, to make a statement again to the College Football Playoff Committee if they win this Big 12 title game. And I think really they made a case for the number 6 spot tonight. Now a common opponent between between Oregon and Texas is Texas Tech. Texas Tech lost to Oregon by 8. Texas beats them by 50. So if you're the committee, you're kind of weighing your options here a little bit. Texas already has the strength of schedule, and they have that huge win over Alabama on the road. So as we head into conference championship week, guys, what do we need to see from Texas to obviously win them the Big 12 championship, but also consider them for a spot in the college football playoff?
Well, they finally got the style points win that everyone's been waiting for. And look, you want to be known as the team getting hot, right, as you head into postseason. Well, Texas can make that argument now with this resounding win. And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention special teams, because special teams put on a dominating performance in this game. Michael Taft with the punt block, Keelan Robinson with a 95-yard kick return for a touchdown that ended up with Malik Murphy getting hurt on the play. They don't know, of course, Malik Murphy, the backup quarterback, was, I guess, not paying attention, and some action came his way, and he ended up getting hit out of bounds, and was hurt. So we got to follow up on that too. But Bert Auburn, 5 of 5 on field goals, including a 54-yarder, his career long. And now he's made 19 straight field goal attempts and has the record for the most field goals made in a season. He's now 28 of 33 and has hit 19 straight field goal attempts, and would have had a chance for a 50-yarder if not for a false start penalty on Cole Hudson that caused them to abandon a 55-yard attempt. But with the way the defense played, with the way Texas dominated the line of scrimmage in the run game, and with the way that the special teams played, man, you could not ask for better momentum, Eric, going into this Big 12 championship, because Texas is not there's no way they can be satisfied getting to this Big 12 title game. They are the number 1 seed. They're the most talented team, whoever they're going to face. They need to win this Big 12 championship. That would give them the bookends, the first and the last. But the momentum from tonight, good timing.
Chip, when we began this journey in Arlington in July, Big 12 Media Days, you were there, Tommy Yarrish was there, and we noticed that the crew, Texas Brock, Jalen Ford, Ja'Day Barrett, Jordan Whittington, Quinn Ewers, and I'm missing one more. I'm trying to remember who else was there. Nevertheless, so I just gave it worthy. Thank you. They made a point to go to the Big 12 championship trophy. It was their 30-yard line on the field, AT&T Stadium. Very few teams, only one other team, which will not be mentioned on this podcast, to walk up to that trophy and now you come full circle 5 months later, they have a chance to compete for that trophy. There's something about that, Chip, in my mind, the mentality of this team, the togetherness of this team, the focus of this team all the way through. We can nitpick a litany of things that we would have wanted to see throughout the year that, even tonight, right? You can nitpick the red zone, right? Nevertheless, they found a way to get one step closer to the ultimate goal, which is competing for the Big 12 title. Now I'm going to use that to segue, Chip, into the college football playoff. This was absolutely a statement when we know there are going to be at least two of the 3 teams that will suffer a loss heading into the final CFP rankings. In my mind, Steve Sarkisian talked about it. He feels that he has the signature win in the country, that being a win over Alabama. I think if you're a Longhorn fan, it was nice to hear him make his case. He's not groveling at the feet of the college football committee, but he's making a logical, rational point. That is, hey, if it were that easy to win at Alabama, everybody would do it. My team went to Tuscaloosa and did so. Not only did his team do that, you can talk about the fact that they lost Quinn Ewers for 2 weeks. They lost their starting running back, a guy who is a Doak Walker candidate. They've had different injuries at times that have shown, and I'm not here to carry Steve Sarkisian's water, but the level of versatility that this is one of the top 4, 5, 6 teams in the nation. In my mind, I don't think you can ask for a better showing and a more resounding showing in totality. But Chip, as you know, it matters when you do it, right? No one remembers what happened in August and September. The fact that you're doing it here on a nationally televised spotlight, saying, hey, this team has been able to show the level of versatility that they deserve an opportunity to compete for a national championship. So in my mind, all of those things in totality put Texas in great position, and they're one step away from possibly competing for the ultimate prize.
Yeah, it was interesting that Steve Sarkisian wanted to get through the Big 12 title game. He's not as, he doesn't have as many reps at this, as Nick Saban, who would probably do his best to make a case for his team right now, before the committee votes again on Tuesday, because you could argue Texas now has a better resume than Oregon, and you could have argued it even before tonight, but Steve Sarkisian's focused on that Big 12 championship, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Make your actions speak louder than your words, and do it next Saturday in Arlington at 11 a.m.
And that is what Texas will do. As Chip mentioned, a week from today when this video goes up, it'll be back to AT&T Stadium for the Longhorns, their goal all season long. All right, fellas, let's go ahead and end this on our MVPs of the game offensively and defensively. I'll let you two decide who wants to go first.
Chip, why don't you lead off?
Well, I'll be a total jerk and take Jaden Blue as the offensive MVP. I just thought he ran really hard. he is a man on a mission, and he's got great burst. I thought he made the case tonight to Steve Sarkisian that, hey, I'm good for 10 carries next week. You can count on me. And that's important to this team. CJ Baxter's been slow to get up a few times. We know he had the foot injury earlier in the year. Texas, I think, now can feel comfortable that they can count on Jaden Blue. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, for offensive MVP, you can be selfish, take Jaden Blue, because I'm going to go with Keelan Robinson. I want to show him some love. Senior night, final time at DKR, and Steve Sarkisian talked about it, right? The fact that this was one of the few guys. I just finished publishing post-game story on Horns 24/7. So if you get a chance after you watch this, or whenever you get a chance to watch this, click on that story. But Steve Sarkisian talked about him being one of the few guys from Alabama who was familiar with him and Jeff Banks, and how pivotal he was in year one, really setting the tone and the foundation for a night like tonight. And listen, he opened the scoring with the 10-yard swing pass that goes down as a run because it was behind the line of scrimmage. And then, Chip, in my mind, 3 straight field goals that Texas had to settle for. Those were 3 drives that began in Texas Tech territory. They only get 9 points out of them. It's a 26-7 game. You're thinking, all right, hey, maybe Texas Tech can get a stop and build some momentum. No. Keelan Robinson, 95 yards out the gate, shuts the door. That was really what sprung this game open, in my mind, slammed shut any hope of Texas Tech winning this game. And quickly, I'll go into my defensive MVP so I can pass it back to Chip to get yours. I'm going to show some love to Jet Bush, the senior, the pass rush specialist. He gets a sack, a nice little spin move, sweet little spin move from Jet Bush there on his sack. And then the presence of mind, that's a phrase that's commonly used in sports, right? But just the awareness and presence of mind to be able to get that ball that kicked up off of Todd Brooks's foot there and, get that 43-yard pick six. I'll go with Jet Bush. So, Chip, who's your defensive MVP?
Yeah, I'll stick with that senior theme, and I'll go with Jalen Ford. I thought Jalen Ford just commanded the field. He led the team in tackles. He dropped an interception that I'm sure he's kicking himself for, because he had the 4 interceptions last year. I would go with Jalen Ford just ahead of Anthony Hill, who, like I said, had the unsportsmanlike conduct, but man, his 3rd down sack was intense. He was hitting people like crazy all over the field. When Anthony Hill makes contact, you feel it through the television. This kid is just a wrecking machine, and it's going to be so much fun to watch as he progresses in his Texas career.
All right, so Chip stole both of my picks for offensive and defensive MVP. So I was also going to go Jaden Blue, a guy I've been high on since his high school days at Klein Kane when he played with Matthew Golden, the Houston wide receiver who threw Texas a fit earlier this season. So Jaden Blue gets my offensive player of the game. And then defensively, I'm going Jalen Ford as well. I think he had his best game of the season on Friday night. 8 tackles, half a tackle for loss, pass breakup, and 2 quarterback hurries for the veteran linebacker. All right, so Texas wins in a 50-burger over Texas Tech, avenging the overtime loss in Lubbock a season ago. They punched their ticket to the Big 12 championship game. They will play either Oklahoma State or Oklahoma. Kansas State has been eliminated from the, 126 different scenarios for a Big 12 championship. Instead, if Oklahoma State wins, they head to Arlington. If they lose, it's Oklahoma that will get a rematch with the Longhorns at AT&T Stadium. We'll find out some more today here who plays the Longhorns. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Horns 24/7 post-game reaction. For Eric Henry and Chip Brown, my name is Tommy Yarrish. Appreciate you all being with us. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you're the first to know when new content heads your way. Thanks for being here once again, and we'll see you next time.